For the first time in this series, the San Francisco Giants are in the postseason. We have been working hard to get a top 2 seed all year, and in the last episode, we were able to do it, getting a first round bye through the wild card round into the NLDS. And the question is, who will we be playing against? Will it be the Chicago Cubs or the Philadelphia Phillies? So we wrapped up the regular season off on a high note, finishing with a 10-game winning streak prior to our final game of the year, finishing with a record of 162, one of just 2 teams across Major League Baseball in the triple digits in terms of wins. The only team who had a better record than us was the number 1 seed Braves. They, along with the Cubs, win their divisions, while the Padres, Dodgers, and Phillies will grab wild card spots. I'm intrigued by this Padres-Dodgers series. In the last episode, I said that not only do I think the Dodgers are going to win against San Diego, but I think they can beat Atlanta as well. As for the American League, the Twins and the Rangers will get first-round byes. The Blue Jays take the AL East, while the other wildcard spots go to the Astros, Mariners, and Rays are able to take that last spot, finishing just 1 game ahead of the New York Yankees. So before we get into the postseason and find out who we're going to play against, let's go through our winners and losers of the stud and duds of the year for the major leagues and the minor leagues. Voting, of course, was held during the last episode by all of you lovely people, going through the players who we felt like most exceeded expectations and most fell below expectations. It's not necessarily a best player will win the award, but rather 3 guys who really stepped up and 3 guys who were really disappointing in comparison to what we were expecting coming into the year. And I think the great thing about our team is that we lacked star power per se. We had a few guys high up in the awards, including Munetaka Murakami, who won the National League Rookie of the Year over Tommy Rogers. But our team is really balanced, and it was hard to pick out players for both awards, especially the duds of the year, considering we won 100 games. So let's start with the stud of the year, and the vote ended up being really close for the big league roster. Aaron Civale takes the win by only around 5 percentage points over J.P. Crawford. Civale, of course, was signed to a cheap 2-year deal in the offseason, and he was brilliant. He had his highest ERA of this series, but he also had a career high in innings. He had the least amount of walks, most strikeouts, least amount of home runs. His advanced metrics were off the charts. Top 5 in the National League in innings pitched. First in the NL in WAR. Second in all of baseball amongst pitchers behind Freddie Peralta. So he'll go up by 3 in terms of his rating, as will his potential. He's now an 86 overall, back to being the second highest rated starter on the roster. J.P. Crawford gets the second spot. Of course, he won the stud of the year last year, and he was even more impressive this year. 26 homers, 83 RBIs, 277 average, drew a ton of walks, played great defense, 5.5 WAR. He was pretty much top 10 in every major statistical category amongst shortstops, and that type of player warrants usually $100 to $200 million as a free agent. I don't think Crawford's going to get that much, but it just speaks to the type of player he's been this year. He's now an 83 overall, and his potential moves up to an 82. Heliot Ramos gets the last spot, and Ramos was a tricky one because he was very clearly the worst player of these 3, but he also had the lowest expectations. He barely made it onto the big league roster, and he turned into a fine everyday player for us in around 400 at bat, 17 home runs, 252 average, mid-700s OPS. He started the year on fire and was pretty bleh after the month of May, but his numbers still look pretty solid considering how well he played early in the season. He'll go up by 1 in terms of his rating and potential. Now, his potential went down during the season, so we'll be bringing it back up from a 79 to an 80, while his overall rating is now a 73. Let's talk about the duds of the year, the most disappointing players on the roster. And again, it was harder to figure out because our team was so good. But Yariel Rodriguez ended up being the loser with around 50% of the vote. Rodriguez was a guy we traded for in the offseason, giving away Thairo Estrada, who ended up having an all-star season to Toronto, and Rodriguez took a noticeable statistical decline, allowing the same amount of earned runs this year that he did in each of the last 2 seasons combined with Toronto. And keep in mind, he's getting paid a pretty penny. We're going to have him on the roster for a while given his contract, and he did not play up to his deal this year, barely finishing with a positive WAR. He was barely a replacement player. So his rating and potential will go down by 3. He is now only a 78 overall, and his potential takes a pretty big hit as well. Not ideal for a guy who is supposed to be a pretty big part of our future. Marco Luciano gets the second spot, and he had a weird season because, on one hand, the game traded him to the Rockies for one game where he homered twice. His offensive numbers at face value really are not that bad, but if you factor in his abysmal defense, along with how poorly he played in the minors over the last couple of months, only hitting 200, it's been a disappointing season for Marco Luciano, and his development as a whole has been really underwhelming since the start of the series. I feel like he's barely gotten better, and his potential is now a B, albeit a high B, but still a B. Michael Kopech gets the last spot, and he's a trickier one because his numbers aren't that bad. Keep in mind, he had a great first half of the season with the White Sox and just really did not pitch all that well with us. So his rating goes down by 1, and his potential, like Luciano's, is now a B. As for the minor leagues, J.J. Green is the stud of the year with a little over 50% of the vote. Green was our final pick in the Season 1 draft, and he's developed really nicely. Had a great season in Double-A, and he was one of the best pitchers at this level. So his rating will go up by 3, and his potential is now a B. Hey, that rhymed. Not too bad for a guy who was picked in the middle of the 6th round. Cesar Prieto gets the second spot. I believed he should have won the stud of the year, given that he had tied for the highest WAR amongst all AAA position players. Sure, his offensive numbers don't pop off the page, but offensive stats are deflated in the minor leagues in this game. This is a guy who I think has a real opportunity to make the 40-man roster, play in spring training, and compete for a roster spot next season, given how well he played this year with AAA. Eliezer Alfonso grabs the last spot, hit 300 this year, really solid for a catcher. Didn't hit for a ton of power, but he hit for good contact, he got on base, and his defense was more than good enough, finishing with a 2.7 WAR, one of the highest WARs amongst catchers at the Double-A level. So his rating and potential will go up by 1. He will be a 71 overall, and he now has B potential. As for the duds of the minor league season, Rainer Arias, one of our top prospects going into this series, really has not gotten much better at all, getting around 50% of the vote, and this is absolutely deserved. I'm surprised he didn't get more of the vote. His numbers this year are a train wreck. He hit for no power, no contact. He did draw a lot of walks, but that's the only thing going for him. A lot of strikeouts, not a lot of extra base hits, abysmal defense, finishing with a WAR of negative 1.8. That's horrible. His rating goes down by 3, as does his potential. He loses rating points since the start of the year, and he now only has a C potential. Thomas Gavello gets second place. His numbers really were not much better, maybe even a little bit worse, you could argue, than Rainer Arias. It's just that Arias is a better prospect, and our expectations for him have been higher, but that's not to take away how bad of a season Gavello had in AAA, with a WAR at negative 1. So his rating goes down by 2. He's now a 65 overall. Starting pitcher Luinder Avila gets the last spot, and Avila had kind of a weird season because he wasn't horrible statistically, and he was pretty good in the postseason for the Double-A team. But again, offensive numbers are deflated in the minor leagues, so there's no reason you should be finishing with an ERA near 5. It is worth noting that a lot of his worst starts were early in the year, so he got better as the season went along, but still, I expected more from him, and with that, his rating and potential will go down by 1. So those are your minor league and major league studs and duds of the year, and of course, those ratings will take into effect into the playoffs here for our big league players. So guys like Aaron Savale and JP Crawford will get a nice boost, while other players like Yariel Rodriguez and Michael Kopech ultimately get hurt. We have to narrow down the postseason roster. I had some tough decisions to make, ultimately sending Tristan Beck down to AAA, holding on to Fernando Molina. I thought he pitched pretty well for us down the stretch. In terms of the infield, I decided between Zach DeZenzo and Marco Luciano for a spot, but I feel like I trust DeZenzo more. He's been better offensively, and he's better on defense as well. As for the last spot in the outfield, I was down to Hunter Bishop and Luis Matos, but Matos' ability to hit lefties ultimately gives him the edge. Keep in mind, Jorge Soler is still going to be out for a month or two, so realistically, his broken hand will not heal at any point during the playoffs, and I don't think he will be around the rest of the year, unfortunately. So let's find out who are we playing against in the first round between the Cubs and the Phillies. Brady Sr. and Garrett Crochet on the mound in Game 1. Two guys acquired during the deadline, and it goes to the Cubs. They win it 6-9. Nice. Interesting game here. It was tied at 3 going into the bottom of the 8th. The Cubs get 3, but then the Phillies get 3 in the top half of the 9th, and Chicago in the bottom of the 10th with a 3-run shot by Nico Horner to win the game. An exciting one, and with that, it's now in the driver's seat for the Cubs. But the Phillies take Game 2 with a strong start from Aaron Nola as they win it 3-2. 6 1/3, 2 earned runs allowed, and the win for Nola. And with that, this Game 3 is do or die. The winner will play against us in the first round of the playoffs. We'll see if it's the Cubs or if it's the Phillies. So let's find out which team will we be seeing in the NLDS. Drum roll, please. It'll be the Chicago Cubs, who beat the Phillies 7-6. Another walk-off, this time in the 13th inning. There was no offense to speak of early in the extras until the Cubbies did it in the bottom of, once again, the 13th inning with the former Giant Scott Barlow allowing the run. Jordan Wicks got the start for Chicago. He was pretty good. Bullpen, for the most part, did a good job as well. So we've got Chicago. The Dodgers do beat San Diego in 3, while the Rays sweep Toronto and the Astros sweep Cleveland. So let's look at this series here against the Cubs. And going into this first game specifically, I fear for the Cubs because they're coming off a 13-inning, extra innings thriller in a game that started at 7:05. That game probably ended around 11. They're going to have a really short layoff considering they have to fly to San Francisco and get ready for an afternoon game the very next day at 1:05. Albeit, I think that's 1:05 Western time, so it's more like 3:05 Central time. But still, that's, I think, a 14-hour difference between games. And within that 14-hour stretch, they're going to be in a near cross-country flight. The Cubs got completely screwed by the MLB schedule makers. And look, I'm here for it. No complaints. This is a tough team, though. They've got a veteran offense with a lot of experienced players, very solid rotation, and I think their bullpen is a major strength. We won this season series against them 4-3, including taking 2 of 3 in Wrigley this past September. As we take a look at the Cubs stats here during the regular season, I think their offense is a lot like ours. They lack star power, but they're really good across the board. A bunch of guys with OPSs in the 800s. They maybe lack that one go-to superstar hitter, but they've got 6 or 7 plus players on this offense, and they've got a good group of depth guys as well. I like the rotation, but they will be without Max Fried, who's arguably their best pitcher, along with Justin Steele, who fractured his head early in the season. So Steele, who's been out all season, will not be available. Max Fried will not be available, and because of that, the Cubs are going to have to use the back end of their rotation. Guys like Javier Assad and Yusei Kikuchi. Here in Game 1, it will be Javier Assad on the mound for Chicago. He'll face off against our very own Logan Webb, who has been granted the opportunity to start this first postseason game. Oracle Park is rocking here on a beautiful Saturday afternoon in San Francisco. Playoff baseball returns to the Bay for the first time since 2021, and this Giants team has real expectations. They're not waddling into the dance excited to be here. This team has some lofty goals, and as I talked about with the Cubs' layoff of having a 13-inning game yesterday, flying to San Francisco, playing here in the afternoon, the Cubs have their odds stacked against them here in this first game specifically. So because of that, I think all the pressure to win this game is on us. And if we don't show out today and lose this game 1-0, I think we could be in some real trouble. There's a look at both lineups 1-9. Tommy Rogers stays at the leadoff spot. Regular starters otherwise for the Giants. And it will be Logan Webb, who had a really good year this year, second in Cy Young. No pitcher in the entire MLB had more wins than him at 18, along with a 3.24 ERA and 1.06 whip. The Giants enjoyed their time off after getting the bye, but are excited to get back to playoff baseball as we start with a Dansby Swanson grounded at first, and Kyler Rodriguez makes the play for out number 1. Ian Happ is now up for the Cubbies. He is behind in the count 1-2. Ooh, that pitch looked like it was in the strike zone, but it's called ball 2. Following pitch on the way from Webb, and it's chopped over to short. Crawford makes the play, so it looks like the bad call by Angel Hernandez behind the plate. proves to not make much of an impact as Happ is retired. That'll bring up Nico Horner, and he grounds this one past the diving glove of Kyler Rodriguez. That'll go for a base hit into right, and so the Cubs get a runner aboard here with 2 away for Joey Gallo, who fishes on the inside slider. The former Giant goes down swinging. Pretty solid first inning for Logan Webb, only allowing the 1 hit. No runs come across as we go to the bottom of the first and take a look at the righty Javier Assad, who's been perfectly mediocre this year. 4.23 ERA, 1.39 whip. He hasn't been bad. He just hasn't really been good either. Tommy Rogers leads things off. The rookie in his first career postseason game sends this one into Triples Alley. He's getting at least 3 here, going as fast as he can. Will he round third? No. There's a chance he would have been safe at the plate. That would have been a storybook Cinderella-esque start. An inside-the-park home run in our first playoff at bat for our young superstar. But hey, a triple works too. 112 off the bat, and the fastest man in baseball is 90 feet away from home with nobody out. Should easily score him as Lee hits it up the middle. Swanson makes the play. Throw to first is in time, but Tommy Rogers comes across to score, and the Giants strike first. They lead 1-0. Munetaka Murakami launches it into right. No doubt about that one. That ball is long gone, and the Giants add to the lead. Murakami went yard 30 times in the regular season, and he owned the Cubs. In this series back at Wrigley in September, he went deep 4 times during those 3 games, including one matchup where he went yard 3 separate occasions. He continues his hot streak, and it's 2-0. Murakami had an up-and-down rookie season, but in the month of September, he really took his game to another level, playing his best baseball, hitting for the most power of his career, and that so far is carried over into October with a moonshot into right field, 361 feet with an exit velo at around 94. So a quick start here for San Francisco. They lead this one 2-0 with still only 1 out. That'll bring up Stone Garrett, the trade deadline acquisition from Washington. He swings and misses on the slider. Nice pitch by Assad. 2 away now for the shortstop, J.P. Crawford, and he lines this one high and deep and left. Back at the track is Happ. At the wall, it's gone! Solo home run for J.P. Crawford. It's 3-0 Giants. I'll be honest, when that ball went off his bat, I assumed it was a routine flyout. I thought that ball had no chance of getting over the fence, but it just kept going and going and going, and it scrapes over. 362 feet, exit velo of 94 for Crawford, who, as we talked about earlier today, had a tremendous regular season, and he's already making the most of his opportunity here in the postseason. I said I wanted to see the Giants set the tone today. This is a really important game. They cannot afford to lose this one. What a start. Already up 3-0. 1-2 for Jonathan India. He lines this one over to short, and it is caught by Swanson. But what a first inning. San Francisco gets 3 with a triple for Rogers. Solo home run from Murakami, and a solo shot a couple batters later from J.P. Crawford. The Giants lead it 3-0 through 1. An excellent start, but there's still 8 innings of ball to go. Do not get comfortable quite yet. Cody Bellinger leads off the second. This ball is high and deep in right center. Rogers can only watch it fly, and the Cubs are on the board. It's 3-1. A nice response here for Chicago as Bellinger hits his first home run of the postseason. That ball goes nearly 440 feet, a no-doubter. So it looks like the Cubs are going to look to scratch and claw their way back. They've still got some work to do, but that certainly will help cut the deficit. Pete Crow Armstrong now up with 2 away. He's got a full count. And this pitch is going to be grounded up the middle. Logan Webb makes the play, and he will tag the runner. So that'll wrap up the second. The Cubs get one back with the solo shot by Cody Bellinger as we head bottom 2. We'll see if the San Francisco offense can continue their hot start. Blake Sabol opens things up, and this one is grounded over to third. Going to be a tough play. Barehanded throw from the hot corner is in time. Good work there at third by Joey Gallo, the former Giant, returning here to Oracle Park. Heliot Ramos draws a walk, so there's a base runner here for San Francisco with 1 away. That'll bring up the 19-year-old Kyler Rodriguez, who was really good in the second half of the year after a slow start. Full count, he draws a walk as well. Assad struggling to find the strike zone, and the Cubs now are in a little bit of danger. 2 on, 1 out, and it's Tommy Rogers who tripled his last time up. This ball is hit high and deep in the left. Happ goes after it at the track, at the wall. It is caught. I thought that ball had enough carry to get over the fence. It would have completely barged the door open on this game. But now there's 2 away for Jun-Hoo Lee. Puts it on the ground to short, flipped over to second. And the Giants leave 2 runners aboard as the Kayakers in the Cove watch in disappointment. 3-1 through 2. Otherwise, a good start for San Francisco as we move to the third. Miguel Amaya leads things off with a base hit up the middle. Quick start here for Chicago, and so they get the early runner. We'll see if they're going to be able to do anything with it. Ian Happ is now up for the Cubs. Count is full. 1 away. What on earth was he swinging at? That pitch wasn't even close to the strike zone. Logan Webb completely missed it, but he got the strikeout. That works. 2 away now for Nico Horner. Base hit in his last at-bat. Played really well in the previous series against the Phillies, including the walk-off in Game 1. As it's a grounded to third, Murakami makes the play. Throw to first is in time. And through 3, Logan Webb looks pretty good. He's allowed 1 run, 3 hits so far. Very, very solid as we go bottom 3. We'll see if San Francisco continues to hit the ball well. They have had no issues getting guys on base so far, as Munetaka Murakami, who homered earlier, leads it off. And this one is roped down the line and fair into the right field corner. Rounding first, heads to second. The throw from PCA is in time. They got him. What a play in right field by Pete Crow Armstrong, hustling to the ball in the corner, making a really nice throw to gun down the runner. 2 away now for Crawford, who, like Murakami, went deep in his first at-bat of the game. 2-2 on its way, and that was not your pitch, buddy. Might have hit him on the shin. Could have gotten the free base, but he checked his swing. Umpire says he went around. 3-1 through 3. Both pitchers really starting to settle in as we move into the fourth. Full count for Joey Gallo. He swings and misses on the fastball. Good pitch there by Webb for out number 1. Cody Bellinger now with 2 gone is up for Chicago. Homered in his last at-bat. Count is even, 2-2. Pitch on the way. Swing and a miss again. This time on the circle change. Another good inning for Logan Webb, and he is looking like the real deal so far here in Game 1 of the NLDS as we move bottom 4. 3-1 here for Heliot Ramos, who drew a walk his first time up. He hits this ball high and kind of deep in the left center, but that one will be tracked down and caught by Ian Happ. 1-2-3, bottom half of the inning for Javier Assad, who hasn't let up any runs since the first. The Giants' offense started hot, but they've gone cold over the last 3. Edward Olivares leads off the 5th. That one hops off the wall and left. Garrett slow to get to it, and that will be a leadoff double. Olivares in scoring position, and the Cubs have a nice opportunity to really make this a game. Pete Crow Armstrong flies this one into foul territory. Jun-Hoo Lee will track it down, and he will make the play. Runner looks for third. The throw from Lee is a bullet! Part-time ball player, full-time sniper. What a throw by Jun-Hoo Lee from the opposite end of the field to gun down Edward Olivares. One of the most impressive defensive plays I've seen in this entire series so far. That ball did not even hit the ground, right in his glove for a double play. Miguel Amaya puts this one on the ground. Dribble to third. Murakami, throw to first is in time. Another scoreless frame from Logan Webb as it remains 3-1 going into the bottom of the 5th, and the Giants look to potentially add to their lead. We'll see if this is the inning where the offense can really get going, as it will not be against Javier Assad. Instead, it's Jameson Taillon. Assad was really starting to pitch well. I'm not so sure I get that choice, as Kyler Rodriguez looks like he got hit, so he'll take his base and leads off the inning aboard. Tommy Rogers lines this one high and deep into center. Back at the track, at the wall, it's gone! 2-run blast for the rookie, Tommy Rogers. 108 off the bat. His triple earlier today was hit even harder, 112. That one goes 424 as the Giants double their lead. It's now 5-1. Not a bad postseason debut for Tommy Rogers. Triple, almost a homer, and an actual homer. So far, I know it's 3 at-bats as a small sample size, but it looks like he's enjoying the big moment as he's fired up in the dugout. Tommy Rogers is obviously going to be the face of this team for years to come, and if he can be a good playoff performer, that would be gigantic for our team's long-term outlook. And again, this is a really small sample size, but this is a very promising start. 5-1, San Francisco ahead as Jun-Hoo Lee draws a walk. Rough start to the inning for Taillon. I really don't get why they brought Assad out. Yeah, the first inning was rough, but he had 3 consecutive scoreless frames. Munetaka Murakami lines this one in to left, and that one's got some ways to go as it makes it to the wall. Lee, rounding third, heads home. There will be no play at the plate. He is safe. It's an RBI double for Murakami, and it's 6-1. What a playoff debut for Munetaka Murakami. He's 3 for 3, single, double, homer, and Taillon is yanked out of the game without recording a single out. He'll be replaced by Mark Leiter Jr., who is an ERA of 27 so far in the playoffs, as Crawford belts it into straightaway center. That ball is way out of here, and the San Francisco offense has exploded here in the bottom of the 5th. Crawford with his second homer of the day. This one goes 467 feet. My goodness! It's now 8-1. A dominant 5th inning from San Francisco with the homer by Rogers, the RBI double by Murakami, and now J.P. Crawford for a second time this afternoon sends one into the seats. This offense is firing on all cylinders. They are now all of a sudden up by 7. J.P. Crawford, coming off a tremendous regular season, has picked up right where he left off. And again, it looks like going to the bullpen has continued to prove to be a really bad mistake for the Cubbies. And now they've got a whole lot of work to do if they want to come back, with San Francisco's offense scoring in spurts tonight. They haven't gotten their runs sporadically. They've just had 2 big innings, but hey, you can't complain when the offense gets 8 runs. The hits are going to keep on piling away as Blake Sabol singles into left here with 2 away. Another runner aboard here as that will bring up Heliot Ramos. Count is full here. We'll see if he can look to get on base once again as this one is lined into right, and it will be caught by Pete Crow Armstrong. Big inning, though, for the Giants with homers for Rogers and Crawford. Murakami gets his 3rd hit of the game and drives in another run. San Francisco's in a good spot. They will keep Logan Webb in here for another inning, though. We'll see if he's able to get through one more scoreless frame as Swanson is walked. So Chicago gets a man aboard to start the inning. 1-2 for Ian Happ. It's a grounder to short. Crawford over to India, over to Rodriguez. 6-4-3 double play. Good work by the defense to turn 2. That'll bring up Nico Horner now for Chicago. This could be the end of the road here for Logan Webb. The 1-2 on its way. Liner to first, and Rodriguez makes the grab. Good inning for Logan Webb, and given San Francisco's lead, I don't see any reason for him to return into the 7th. Yency Almonte will come out of the pen to pitch for Chicago. He'll face off against Kyler Rodriguez. He's reached base twice so far today, looking to do so again here with a full count. And he swings and misses on the sinker. Good pitch there by Almonte for the first out of the inning. Tommy Rogers has been a man on a mission so far, but he swings and misses at the fastball for the second out of the inning. That will bring up Jun-Hoo Lee with Almonte looking to strike out the side. He won't, as Lee lines it into left, and it's caught by Ian Happ. Into the 7th now. Fernando Molina will come out of the bullpen for the Giants. Ideally, we're looking for 2 or 3 innings out of him. Maybe he's able to finish the game off. In 12 innings this year, he showed a lot of promise. 2.43 ERA, 1.42 whip. A guy who's got some real upside, whether that's as a reliever or as a starter in the future. Joey Gallo leads things off, launches it into right. Jun-Hoo Lee obviously will not make the play as it is a splash shot into the cove. The whole reason why I signed Joey Gallo back in the Season 1 offseason was for some splash shots, and we never got any with him. But sure enough, now that he's on the Cubs in the playoffs, he's going to do it, making it 8-2. Not a great start to Fernando Molina's postseason debut, allowing the early homer. We'll see if he can rebound as Andrew Vaughn looks at a slider pretty much right down the middle. I don't know what he was waiting for. Cody Bellinger, liner over the glove of Jonathan India. This one will roll all the way into Triples Alley. Bellinger will hold it second with a double. The Cubs get another runner aboard here with one out. We'll see if they're going to be able to do some damage, really look to make a deficit into this lead. This ball gets by Sabol. Bellinger makes it to third. So theoretically, a sacrifice from Edward Olivares would be able to drive him in. Olivares draws a walk instead. That works. And now there's runners on the corners. One away for Pete Crow Armstrong. Count is even at 1-1. And PCA lines it into the opposite field. This ball rolls to the wall. It's 8-3. The following runner rounds third. Looks to head home. He's safe. It's now 8-4 with a 2-run double from Pete Crow Armstrong. Fernando Molina is really struggling, and it will not get any better here. Miguel Amaya, single into left. PCA heads home. It's 8-5. So all of a sudden, the Cubs appear to be right back in the game. A disastrous outing from Fernando Molina, who only allowed 3 earned runs in the regular season, but he lets up 4 here in his first postseason game, and will be replaced by Enyel De Los Santos, who looks to get out of the inning, facing off against Ian Happ. Swing and a miss on the circle change. Good job there by De Los Santos to get through the rest of what was a disastrous top of the 7th. The Cubs make up a large chunk of the deficit, as it's now 8-5. Julian Merriweather out of the bullpen here for the Cubs in the bottom half of the inning so far. He's got 1 scoreless frame here in the postseason. Let's see if the Giants can look to add some insurance here as we start with Munetaka Murakami. Hits this one high and deep and a right. Back at the track, at the wall, it's caught. Nearly his 4th hit and 2nd home run of the game, just inches away from scraping over the fence. Stone Garrett swings and misses at the fastball. Good pitch by Merriweather. 2 away now for J.P. Crawford. He lines this one in to right. That'll go for a hit. And San Francisco gets a man aboard here with 2 outs. We'll see if they can look to do some damage, as that will bring up Jonathan India. He's been quiet 0 for 3, but he hits this one high and deep into left center. Back at the track, near the wall, it's caught. We've had a few balls go to the warning track today. We've got 8 runs, but realistically, we should have like 12. Considering how many balls have almost been homers as we move into the 8th. It's time for the back end of the bullpen to slam the door. That starts with the lefty A.J. Minter, who has become the Giants' 2nd most trusted reliever this year. Nico Horner gets that one to drop into right. Rather than trying to make the big catch, Lee lets it go for a hit, because had he missed that ball, it's probably a triple. Joey Gallo puts it on the ground. This should be 2. Rodriguez to Crawford. Back to Rodriguez. 3-6-3 double play. Good work by the infield, and that'll bring up Andrew Vaughn. He flies this one into center. Rogers with space. He is under it, and he will make the play. San Francisco now up by 3 going into the bottom half of the 8th with a really strong inning from A.J. Minter. Out of the bullpen here for Chicago will be Carl Edwards Jr. His ERA is at 9 this year in the postseason. The Cubs had some inconsistent bullpen performances against the Phillies, Edwards among them, as Blake Sabol swings and misses on the fastball for the first out of the inning. Zach DeZenzo comes off the bench as a pinch hitter, and that one goes up the middle for a base knock. So DeZenzo makes the most of his opportunity here as a pinch hitter. Getting aboard here with 2 away for Tommy Rogers, looking for his 3rd hit of the day. Hits this one sharply to second. 104 off the bat, but the grounder is going to lead to an out. Tommy Rogers has hit the ball insanely hard over the last month or so. His high exit velos certainly give us room for optimism as we move to the 9th. It's closing time. Camilo Duvall is in for the save, and opposing teams have really struggled this year in these situations, facing off against Duvall as he's been arguably the most efficient reliever in baseball this season. 44 of 49 in save ops with an ERA at 1.07 and a whip below 1. We'll start with Bellinger. He lines it in the left. Stone Garrett is under it for the first out of the inning. Edward Olivares, 3-1. Grounder to third, what a play! DeZenzo, throw to first is in time. Wow, what a play at the hot corner from Zach DeZenzo as the game comes down to Pete Crow Armstrong. Cubs down to their final out and their final strike. PCA up the middle base hit. So this game will survive for a little bit longer. Tying run is on deck. They've still got plenty of work to do. As that brings up the 9-hitter Miguel Amaya. He's had a nice day, 2 for 3, but he's behind in the count, 1-2. Pitch on the way here from Camilo Duvall. Swing and a miss on the slider, and that'll do it. The Giants win Game 1 of the NLDS by the score of 8-5. Certainly wasn't a perfect game, but we're able to get the job done. The offense scores in spurts. 3 runs in the first, 3 more in the 5th. We didn't have much consistency offensively, but when we had guys on base, when we needed big plays, we got them. The Cubs offense was also kind of the same way. 4 of 5 of their runs came in the 7th as Logan Webb gets the win and Javier Assad gets the loss. Although I really think the losing decision was taking out Assad as early as they did, going to the bullpen, who ultimately costed them the game. Let's take a look at the final numbers today. The Cubs had a number of guys play fairly well offensively. They did have the same amount of hits as us, for starters. Cody Bellinger had 2 hits, including a homer. PCA and Miguel Amaya at the end of the lineup both produced. And as I mentioned, I thought Javier Assad wasn't that bad other than the first inning. It's just that the bullpen, Tyone in particular, kind of blew it. We had a few guys play really well. Tommy Rogers, 2 for 5. Homer, nearly a second homer. He drove in 2. Munetaka Murakami, 3 for 4. Homer, nearly a second homer for him. He drove in 2. J.P. Crawford did homer twice. He drove in 3. The problem is the rest of the lineup did nothing. We had 2 hits from the entire rest of the team, and one of them was by Zach DeZenzo, who came off the bench. The other 6 starters had 1 hit today. That's not enough. Logan Webb had a great start. Fernando Molina did not do so well out of the bullpen, but the veteran relievers were able to slam the door, help us get the win 8-5. So that'll be the only game of today's episode, being that it's our very first postseason game of the series, and we went through studs and duds. So next episode, we've got games 2 and 3. We'll see if the Giants are possibly able to sweep Chicago or if the Cubs get back in this series. Hope everybody enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.